Hey everybody, welcome to Reach and Teach. I am so glad to be with you today from my spare room. We're hanging out in my extra bedroom today at home. We got if you can see behind me, a green screen that I can use for this. I'd like to show you some of my gear today and setup. I thought that might be helpful to you. But if we haven't met before, my name is Joanna. I am in Toronto, Canada, and I don't know where you're watching from, but Toronto, like much of the world, Canada, like much of the world right now, we're all at home. We're stuck at home. And so I thought today I wanted to talk about what we're noticing about how to reach people and teach people. What I mean by that is evangelism and discipleship. Now, in this time, I want to look at a few of the things I have. I don't have all my gear like sitting around me easy to grab today. If you're interested in more details about it, I'm happy to get it for you later. I can link below to all kinds of stuff if you're trying to figure out how to do this thing. And I'm going to make maybe a separate video just about that. But wanted to dive right in. As always, love it when you talk to me. Tell me who you are. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me how many days you've been at home, how you're doing, how you're managing if you're working from home, what your church is doing, just so that we can connect about it, but also encourage one another. My church has been 3 Sundays now doing live stream, and that's probably pretty similar to some of you. And so now my spare bedroom has become my makeshift office. So let me show you around first in here before we go into like reaching people and teaching people. Let me just show you a little bit about the setup of how I'm doing that right now. So first of all, I'm just speaking directly into my computer, and the program that I'm using for this right now is called eCam Live, ECAMM. And has anyone else used it? So when you're seeing like, where is it? Below me here, you've got like a little footer, and like up here, little thing. And if I pull up other stuff later, like I can pop up maybe something like this on the screen, or I can show you a video. I can have some stuff hanging around all over. I can also, on eCam, it allows you to do video calls. So maybe if you've been seeing other people where they pull in another person live on video, you can do that through lots of different programs. But the one that I'm using is called eCam, and it has a 14-day free subscription. So if you're thinking about checking out something like that for your own church or for your own ministry, or I don't know, just to entertain people, because apparently during coronavirus, everyone has become a social media influencer or something. You can use it. eCam Live is what I've been using, and there's a ton of videos online all about how to use it. Like, I mean, they have like a whole YouTube channel walking you through step by step of how to set it up and use it. And so what I love is that it's just so easy and so simple to make it look like we know what we're doing. So is anybody on here? Let me know. Throw down a message if you use eCam, or maybe you use BeLive, or maybe you're using something else. Maybe you're just going directly into Facebook when you do a live. I don't know what you use, but I'd love to know. And if there's something that you think is better about what you're using than eCam, then that's great. Let me know. I pay for my subscription for them because my 14-day trial went up, and I liked it enough that I thought I would pay for it. But I have no strong bias towards it. Other than I'm just saying, hey, I use it. All right, so let me tell you, moving around the rest of my setup. I just for headphones while I'm listening to you, I just got my AirPods in, just these little suckers. Any old headphones will do. And if you're talking to camera, I would recommend you use headphones so that you don't get the echo of feedback where people are hearing themselves like you're hearing yourself in your head, but then you're hearing it come back at you from the camera. The other thing I'm using now, which has been a more recent, just in the last couple months, I've got this. This is the Shure SM7B mic. It's kind of this mic is not a digital mic; it's an analog mic that I have to plug into another box, and then that box is the digital converter that sends it into the computer. I can link it below if anybody wants to see which one I'm using. I got it on Amazon. It's called Euphoria. It's the UMC204HD, and it can take 2 mics. So the reason I got it wasn't for this specifically. I actually got it because I do a podcast every week called Word Made Digital. Word Made Digital podcast is all about creatives and communicators. How do we adjust when the word is not just flesh? and blood, like in John chapter 1, but when the word becomes digital and moves into the neighborhood and we become incarnational that way. So it's tons of conversations. I've been doing it. We're just launching season 4 of Word Made Digital like next week. So stay tuned if you haven't listened to Word Made Digital, but there's tons of old episodes you can check out with lots of smart people. People you've definitely, some of them you know the names of, and some of them you don't, but there's lots of great content there if you want to check it out. So if you've listened to Word Made Digital podcast before, let me know. I'd love to hear from you if you're a listener to the podcast. But I upgraded this mic. This mic, I think if you bought it new, it's like about $400, and then you need like the mic cable, and then I have it on a table stand. I do that because when I do podcasting, I'm moving around. But a lot of people, you can get like an arm that's kind of like the arm of this lamp behind me. You can get like an arm that attaches to your desk. And if it's a more permanent setup, you probably want to do that. But I move around a lot with both just within my home, but also because when I do podcast interviews, I need to be able to bring my gear with me. So that's why I chose the table stand mics. And these things are, I think, like $20 on Amazon or wherever you want to buy stuff. And I used to, up until now, the famous mic that other than this is being like the sort of top standard mic, you can also get something much simpler that plugs directly into your computer. I don't have it quickly around me to grab, but the other mic that I have that's super simple is just a USB mic. It's a Blue Yeti. I would expect that a lot of you, if you have a mic to plug into your computer, you probably start with something like the Blue Yeti. There's 2 levels of Blue Yeti. There's one that's a smaller mic that's really just for kind of like you to talk into your computer. So if that's all you need it for, get the cheap one. But the one I have is the level up, and it's the one maybe you're more familiar with. It looks like a funky old like radio mic. It has a really nice design look to it, which maybe matters to you if you're recording stuff online. And so the Blue Yeti is a great mic, and it's not maybe for people who are like gear snobs or people who really know sound production. They would say, of course, it's because it's a digital, not an analog. Like this is an analog mic. A digital mic, it maybe isn't as good a quality of sound. But, I was so encouraged when I interviewed someone who had like millions of downloads on their podcast. When we got on the video call to do the interview, I saw that this woman who has millions of listens on her podcast was using the same Blue Yeti mic that at the time I was using. And it was such a reminder to me and an encouragement to all of us that it doesn't matter so much how fancy your gear is. It's about the content, right? People care about what you're saying more than how fancy your gear is. So I decided after 3 seasons of my podcast and it being a part of my income because I have sponsors on the podcast, I thought it was time to up my game and get a better mic. But I started with the Blue Yeti like a lot of people start with. And so if you have it, it's a great mic. Now the next thing I want to show you, if I'm going to like turn, I've got one here, and I've got, if it'll turn, I got one there, these softbox lights. And hey, actually in the corner, if you see behind me there, you see that like coil thing there, that thing right there is another softbox light I could put above my head. So I bought this set of 3 basic cheap lights that came with the light bulbs and the softbox kit. And there's the basic 3 light setup, and that helps you with avoiding shadows. And I mean, if I set it up properly, which I haven't done yet, a better place, you would kind of avoid some of the shadows that we're trying to get off of us, because I'm in a room with a small window. So if you have natural light though, you don't need these lights. But if you would like better light, a softbox is the first place to go. The downside of them is they take up a lot of space. A softbox is like fairly large and on a stand, but you can see for me, like it's literally sitting, that one is sitting on the bed, and the other one over here, there's my fizzy water and my coffee, that one's on the floor. But the point is, they take up a bit of space, and so you got to be a bit creative of how to use them. But the softbox, basically it literally softens the light. And so I got these 2 lights plus the one overhead that I haven't set up. And then this thing behind me, which is a screen that came with a green screen, a white background and a black background. And I think the entire kit, because it's cheap, like low end starter kit, I think it was $150. on Amazon and arrived like 2 days later. I got this a week or two ago because I'm doing a lot more from home. Normally, I don't do my filming here at home, but as with you guys, we're all just trying to adjust. And so if you would like that, let me know. Throw a link. I can throw a link down if you leave me a comment and let me know that you want to see the exact stuff I'm using. Let me know. But the soft boxes soften the light. It makes it a little bit less harsh. You still have better lighting than just like the overhead light in your room. If you're in a place that has natural light, like if you can sit with a window like on this side of you pushing light at you, not behind you, or else you're in a shadow. You don't want to sit in front of a window there. You want the window to be over there. And it can, be a huge benefit too. So you don't have to buy lights, but if you do have lights, you want to have one on either side of you here, and then ideally one. Okay, I'm seeing that Laurel is saying, "Hey, Laurel, saying you want to see the kit." Yes. When we're done the broadcast, circle back here like a couple minutes later. I'm gonna link up a bunch of this stuff below. I just bought it like within the last 10 days, so you will find it there as well. But I just got the cheap kit because it's cheap, and two, I'm not sure how much commitment I wanted to make to lights in the first place, and three, if I love this, then I can always upgrade later and then sell the cheaper kit to someone else. And so maybe you want to take that approach too if you're dealing with not a lot of money. You don't have to get like the higher end fancy stuff. There are some I can recommend to you if you would like. Yeah, I'm seeing Wendy too. Yeah, for sure, Wendy. I would love to link it below. I'm going to let you know where these soft boxes are on Amazon. They were super cheap. You want to watch out though, because some of them don't come with the light bulbs. So that's like a whole other purchase you have to think about making. And Kenny's saying, yeah, and it works. That's true. It works. It's simple. I'm in a room. If I can show you, look at that tiny. I'm in a. Some of the rooms in my home have more light, but I'm in a spare room, and that is the only tiny window that we have in here. So I definitely needed some more light. So I went cheap because I'm using my own money, and I wanted to just see what I could do for cheap. And from here, you can always upgrade. You can always get, like I said, I was using the Blue Yeti USB mic. That's like $125, and now I've upgraded to about this mic in Canadian dollars was about $500, but I bought it used. I just got it on like a secondhand online sale thing, and I was able. And here we have Kenny's adding. If you see in the link here, you can check out in the link in the comments below that he's got all kinds of guides to quick start. Yeah, Kenny's done a ton of stuff for us. Thanks so much, Kenny, for what you've been doing with building up free resources for people. But yeah, the point is start with the cheap stuff. And go from there. You can always upgrade and sell the cheaper stuff to someone else starting out if you want, but don't feel the pressure of getting the fancy stuff right away. And here's why I wanted to talk about that. When we're thinking about reaching and teaching people, the people we really want to pay attention to right now in this corona, scary, interesting, bizarre time that we're all living in is things like this. Have people seen this? John Krasinski, he's doing the show. It just came out with the first episode last night. I think the show is called Some Good News, SGN, Some Good News with John Krasinski. So if you haven't seen, go on YouTube right now and Google like Some Good News, John Krasinski, and you'll find it. If you don't know these guys, these are from The Office. I assume most people love or watch or have seen something of the show to know. But basically, his whole show is being filmed in his house, in like his office. He's got like his laptop up on a stack of paper, and so it's a bit higher, so it's a nicer angle at him. And he's got another camera, I think, like a basic camera, just like a point and shoot or a DSLR or something, and he's just filming interviews with people over Zoom calls or Skype calls and recording them and then putting them into here. The point of what this is it's showing, this is like the number 3 trending thing on YouTube right now. It's gotten like, I think overnight he's gotten hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Why? Because I think a few things that we want to make note of. Yeah, Kenny is saying it really is a great, Kenny's saying here it's a great show. Kenny, if you've seen it, if anyone else seen it, let me know. Leave a comment, throw up a like or a thumbs up if you've watched this. If you haven't had a chance, I want you to go today. It's a 50-minute show. Actually, Kenny's even linked it below in the comments if you want to check it out. But this show I want to highlight, as well as the other one that I'd like to point out to us if I can find it, is Jimmy Fallon, who's at home doing late night, like all the late night guys are. They're doing late night comedy, but from home. I'm going to get to him in a second. But what I want to point out to you about this setup is how simple it is. It's basically just what I'm doing right now. It's a guy who's at home filming with the gear, the basic stuff he has, none of it's fancy stuff. And he's seeing hundreds of thousands. Of course, he's a celebrity, so he has an ability to get from the get-go, he has an ability to get his information out to people. But there's lots of people who don't follow him on the internet who have found this show. Why have they found this show? I think because of a few things. One, people want good news right now. This show is about good news in hard times. And guess who owns the market on good news, people? The people of God. We have the best news in the world, and so we should be the best communicators of good news. We have not necessarily the answers for hard times in terms of like, why is this happening? We don't necessarily have to answer all the why it's happening questions. I would encourage you probably not to, but we have good news, and we have hope, and we have joy, and we have peace, and we have a long-term future we can look to with Christ, and it is the best news in the world. Hey, Seth, I see Seth has just joined us. Hey, Seth, he's a new friend of mine here in this whole world of communications, and he's got an Instagram summit coming up real soon. If he can post a link to it below, we want people to go check that out. I'm going to be doing one of the sessions on it on Instagram and how to build raving fans, and it's through stuff like this exact thing we're talking about, that in overnight, Jahng Krasinski has seen all kinds of pickup on this because, number one, he's talking about good news. If anyone could do a show about good news, it's the people of God. It's churches. It's Christians who could celebrate it. Number two, honestly, in hard times, people just need to laugh. I don't know if you're finding this on your own Netflix choices or whatever, but like, I guess there are some crazy people out there who are wanting to watch like the pandemic movies, but I think for most of us, actually, we want relief. The reason we're watching shows is to get a break from how hard some of the news is in the world right now. And so what we can offer to people is something fun and light, not to make less of what's really going on in the world. There are hard things, but sometimes people need a good laugh. I posted something on my Instagram the other day. Have you guys seen the video of the poor guy on the live stream like last weekend at church, in some small church in some small place in America, and the woman singing and he's in the back on the drum kit and the tree falls on him, and then like he's still trying to play like while he's shoving the tree off, and this is all happening on the live stream, and the lady just keeps singing. Nobody goes to help the guy. He doesn't stop to move the tree. I've watched this video on loop. Has anyone else seen it? If you have, like, send an emoji or something below if you know what I mean. You can find it on my own Instagram. You could the link to my Instagram, Joanna Fleur, is down there below if you want to find it. But the point of that whole thing is that I've had so like unusually high amounts of shares, comments, and likes compared to, like, I don't have a huge audience myself, but compared to what I normally get, there's just been a huge uptick of, even where you track in the insights, how many people have shared that post of mine with people in their own networks, because it's fun and it's light and it makes you laugh. So just like with what Jahng Krasinski's doing here, bringing his comedy buddies, doing the good news stuff, it resonates. It's good news and it's fun and it's light. I see I'm just seeing here, Seth says, I actually showed that one on the Insta Good show last week. Yeah. So he was saying he showed this himself. That's it. That like people need a freaking break sometimes from all the like stress, and you need a break from kid stuff, and you need a break from work stress and financial issues and like the news that's coming in. I don't know how it is in your city or your town, but there is some bad news out there. And so who owns the market on good news is Christians. So we should be the best communicators in the world right now of good news and hope in hard times. Hope in hard times, not fake hope, not superficial, surface level hope, real lasting hope in Jesus, right? The kind of hope that gives us hope not just now, but for the life to come. Whether we live or die, our hope in Christ. The best news in the world. And so we should hone the market on it. The other thing that I think is obviously resonating with people out of this, which is why I'm posting this, but also want to highlight to you, not just them, but what's going on with, if I can pull it up, I need to just find it here. This guy. Okay, I keep pointing. We're mirrored in my camera, so I keep pointing the wrong way. It's hard to find where my pictures are. Okay, Jimmy Fallon. Again, if you haven't seen what's going on in late night TV right now, especially I think Jimmy Fallon is kind of owning it right now in terms of all the other guys who are doing the same thing. They're doing late night TV at home. And so this is just a screenshot of him. This is literally him reading his monologue. He's got it on that paper. He's trying to tell you his classic monologue jokes he starts every show with. But his kids are there coloring. He's trying to get them to laugh at the jokes. They don't really get, some of them are a bit above their heads, right? So he's trying to get, but he's just like basically he's reading the monologue in the midst of his kitchen table, it looks like, with his kids around, and they're whispering in his ear and they're talking to each other, and he has to get them to stop to keep going. And then he'll cut to like we saw with John Krasinski, he'll cut to like a Zoom call with one person on each side. The point of me bringing this to you is this: you have the same technology that this guy has. You have the same ability. If you're watching this show, I assume that means you have a phone, an iPad, or a computer. So you have the exact same level of technology that these guys are using. But what I want you to notice is they haven't tried to keep the format exactly the same as it was on their show. This is the key thing I want people to get across today as we're reaching and teaching people. As we're reaching and teaching people right now on the internet, is that it's not business as usual. Everybody knows that. This guy here, he's not trying to pretend like he's on a set, like he's talking to a room full of people with a crowd and a fake laugh track to try and pretend like there's an audience. Everybody knows that he's at home, and everybody knows he's trying to figure out how to do his show in the midst of crazy family life, and everyone's got their own stuff going on at home right now. And so with all of that, I want you to think about what that means for your church service. I think the longer we are in this church from home scenario, the stranger it's going to be to have a pastor on a stage talking as if there was a bunch of people in the room, or looking around the room to a crowd that everybody knows isn't actually there. And so I want to encourage you to think of some ways to not just film as if it was your church service on a Sunday with the band or however you're doing music, and a preacher in a room that's empty, that everybody knows is empty. Think about what Jimmy Fallon is doing, and think about what John Krasinski and all these kinds of guys are doing to use the gear that they have at home. It doesn't have to be fancy, but to embrace the medium at hand. The medium is the message, and everybody knows that you're in this kind of a scenario too, and that's why it's resonating with them. So pastors, would you take people on Sundays, do your message and do it well, prepare for it, consider and pray about what your people need, but consider how you present it. Maybe you want to do your talking segment in your kitchen. Maybe you want to have your kids, if you're the worship person. Maybe I saw a friend of mine who's a worship leader. He had his kids for a couple of the songs just sitting there beside him as he's playing the guitar, and they sang with him right there in their house. Just like we're seeing what these guys are doing. They're getting their kids involved because they're there. Everybody knows you're at home with them. So if they're wanting to, or if you feel like it's appropriate, why not consider a way that you might engage them with what you're doing as well? Now, the other piece of this is thinking about new segments to reach and to teach people right now. Would be like a normal liturgy you have, right, in your services at home, in your home church. You would have probably a certain amount of songs you sing, and when you do the announcements, and how you do the offering, and the prayer times, or calls and response, or communion, or Eucharist, or the sermon, or the whatever it is that are the elements of your service, depending on your tradition. We all have those, but what would it look like to think about some elements to add and include in creative ways, like these guys are doing on the internet? So maybe you want to have, if you don't normally hear from like the kids or the youth people or the care department, this would be a great time to do a segment with them as part of your actual service. So do a Zoom call on the screen. You could record it in advance or do it live right in front of people, and have your care team or your prayer team or your kids team or your youth team or whoever give updates about what they're doing and how they're responding to it. Maybe there are people who don't normally, it doesn't make sense in like a traditional typical morning service to have them do that kind of update, especially if you're a larger church. But we're not in normal times, so consider how you might want to do that to include them in. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to to do something interesting with like telling stories of how people in your community are doing. Or maybe you want to have a prayer time that's live where people could actually, in the chat section of your live thing on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you do a live stream, you could have people send in prayer requests if they want publicly. And then you can actually live do some prayer time back and forth with people, praying for the things as they actually come in. There's lots of opportunities to do lots of different things. There's some churches who are doing some really creative stuff, doing like updates from how it's going on the home front of different service leaders or pastors. And hey, I encourage you to show people your home. Leaders, be real. Show people what's actually your view right now. If it's not on the service, if that's not where you want to do it, would you get on your Instagram or your Facebook and invite people into your home? Just like I've done, I'm showing you like this basic spare room that I have that I'm using as a studio right now. I encourage you to take people on a tour of your space. Show people what it's like with your kids. Show people if you want to put I understand some people don't want to put their kids on, but why don't you show people what it actually looks like where you are. If we want to reach people and we want to teach people in a new medium, in a new world that we've entered, we got to do it in new ways. There are some old things we got to throw away. There's some old rules or ways of doing we can, kind of forget about for a little while, or maybe some of them forever, we can forget about them. But I want you to think about, and if you haven't had a chance, your homework assignment, it's a fun homework assignment, so don't worry. Your homework assignment for this Reach and Teach show is to watch Jahng Krasinski's Some Good News. It's 15 minutes that will be a delight to you. I encourage you to watch it. Good news in hard times, because we are the ones who have the best news in the world, right? Just as Dave here, amen, we own the market on good news. That's right, Dave. Like we, the church, have the best news in the world, and so we should be the best communicators of it in the world. It's what I say all the time on my own podcast, Word Made Digital, and it's the reason I do what I do. I want to help you be the best communicators in the world. So we aren't the best yet, and so why don't we look at people who are doing great new and innovative things? I'm using the basic tools we have. I'm going to give you a rundown of some of my tools in the links. I'll link it below when we're done the podcast. I'm going to sign off in a couple minutes. But if there's anyone who has a question now or after, hey, just tag me or put a comment below. And whether it's live right now or it's, in the coming days, if you watch the rebroadcast of this, I will make sure to get back to you. I will answer it there, and I will also try and answer it in the next week's show. But my encouragement to you is go watch some Jimmy Fallon, go watch some Jahng Krasinski, and maybe go watch a few other churches' live streams. See what other people are doing so you can be innovative, because it's not business as usual, my friends. We have an amazing opportunity that when our churches physically are able to open up again, imagine if they were bigger than they are now. Imagine if there were more people coming to our churches than ever before because they heard good news, because they were captured by the love of Christians for them, because they were inspired by hope that doesn't go away when their finances go away, when their security goes away, when their health goes away, when their social relationships go away. Whatever has gone away for us, we have a hope that remains in Jesus, and it's good news, and people don't know it. And so we need to tell them and do it as creatively as we can. So go and watch those. Share some of that with your own leaders. If you're not the leader in your church, I want you to share some of this stuff that you're finding about the Some Good News show with Jahng Krasinski, the Jimmy Fallons of this world and what they're doing with late night, and what other churches you're seeing around the world are doing with simple, basic setups, wherever they may be, to creatively change the liturgy of their Sunday service or change the rhythms of how often they're communicating every day or every week. Whatever it is that they're doing, let's keep sharing the best of that with one another so we can all be better communicators of this good news. We're reaching and teaching people in Jesus' name for the love of people and for the sake of the gospel. All right, I look forward to chatting with you more this week. In the comments, online, come find me. hello@joannalafleur.com is my email. Let me see if I can just throw this up. Nope, that's Nora Jones. We didn't get a chance to talk about her. We'll talk about her next week. I had a good call with her, but let's connect. You can find me at joannalafleur.com. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook or wherever at Joanna LaFleur on all the platforms, and email me hello@joannalafleur.com. I want to send you free stuff. I want to give you good resources. I want you to be thinking theologically and pragmatically about what we're doing, and I'm here to help you any way that I can. Have a great week, guys. Bye.